Okay, so this is where we're at so far. It's November 20th, 2022. I've been working on this for about 6 months from when I got the idea. It's been less than that since I filed, 2 weeks after I thought of it, since I filed the patent. Provisional patent, I should say. Anyway, so the story so far is I went up to Montana. Well, first, I was like, chainmail, I can do that. I'll just make some springs. Here, I'll show you how I did that. I just literally took this big stack of galvanized wire that I got for cheap, and I made this little doodad, and basically all it does is it feeds wire in the side, and I reinforced it with JB weld and a nut, so it, as the wire's going in, it doesn't wear through this cherry wood. And then I put a pipe strap around it so it doesn't split, so that's got some good tension around it, and then again another little, that nut goes into it a good ways. And then you just set it on top of the mandrel, rolling in a drill, and it just bends it straight down as the tension goes, and then reopens it around the mandrel, and you end up with a really nice product. So I ended up getting a whole bunch of these, and then realizing that the kerf, if I was going to cut them all down the middle, the kerf was too wide for it to make sense, so I had to hand cut a bunch of them, which is why those are still sitting there. Otherwise I would be turning them into these right here, which I've got one right there, and I've got one right there. And basically, kind of take this Taurus. This was my first, I'm like, okay, so does this even work? I've $75 into it. Does this idea that I claimed my spot on, does it work? So I made these, and as I was making them, I was experimenting with different sizes, and they clearly worked, but I wasn't getting a lot of travel. I started to think about aspect ratio and making the holes bigger compared to the wire, but not having the equipment to try bigger wire, and wanting it to be as strong as Kevlar. Just trying to go for strength in terms of, and then these were too small to weld, so I'm starting to think about all this, but now I have these, which have proven to me that it works on an initial test, and B, it'd be super easy to put something like, I don't know, an axle, like an axis, or like a spring, something down the middle, and stack these on top of each other with some type of separator, and then have segmented spine sections where you can hook into, every muscle has its own unique little place to hook in that's all really dense there, and then you can connect to the spinal cord, which is the core of balance in a humanoid armature. So I was like, that's perfect, and plus it's strong, like I don't have to weld it, and it's still, like, it's not getting pulled apart. It's not, it moves really smoothly, especially if you put it in an oil bath, but at the same time, it's very strong and durable, and easy to replace and easy to conceptualize, and organic too. Cheap as well, especially because you could print these out. I have a machine print them out just like gangbusters, So I'm doing that, and then I call my buddy, and I'm like, hey man, what are you doing? It's like, oh, I'm just hanging out, going to school, working. I was like, do you want to maybe hang out? He goes, well, I live in Montana. I think that'd be a bit of a long drive. I said, yeah, well, that's why I ask, if it's cool if I come hang out for, maybe have like 2 weeks, that I come and camp in Montana and do the thing. And he's like, yeah, no, sure, come on up. So we made this knife. And we were like, okay, we can work together. Like, we know how to do stuff. And as we're making this knife, we're doing this thing, which is, I already had the tube and had used this as a second proof of concept before I went up to Montana. But then I, had finally put the balloon in it, or the bicycle inner tube. I've yet to try a sleeve in here. I've yet to try an oil bath. I have yet to try a combination of those things. But I did try putting wire through it. And it gives it a turgidity, it gives it a definiteness of space, it gives it a linearization. It's really nice. And then we were like, okay, so we're doing it, man. Let's make some actual chainmail. And luckily he has an entire studio where he just had a bunch of this laying around, and he was like, oh yeah, dude, let's use that. This is just an experiment to me too, I just want to learn, see if I can make this stuff to sell it. So yeah, anything that I make, it's yours, but let's try it. And I was like, no way. And he just, as part of his experimental process, he used my help. I turned a mandrel in his thing, and I have a video of it. And we flattened out each link and wove them together, and welded them. it works really well, because now look at where this was getting maybe like a 0.5% contraction, right? If you go this way on that one, that's like 50% contraction or something. Like, look at how far the distance between here and here is. It's not that much in this direction, but if you pull here, those things are flying. We're talking 10, 15, 20%, near the limit of what that type of Jean whatever muscle is supposed to do. With the Kevlar windings, the counter windings that I've seen 17,000 scientific papers about, the hypothetical limit. And this is like right there, and obviously you could change the shapes of the rings and do all kinds of cool stuff, but anyway, those are the 3 major experiments that I've done. I've done other smaller ones, but none to take too much note of. In any case, that's 6 months of work. Cheers.